Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Thank you for taking just a few minutes to chat with me about type 2 diabetes. I am the plant-based nutritionista, and I am here to inspire you to take your health back one meal at a time by eating more plants. And did you know that there are two practical evidence-based ways to improve and possibly even reverse your type 2 diabetes? Join me for the next 2 minutes to learn more. As you may or may not know, November is Diabetes Awareness Month. And so I thought it was fitting to chat with you at a very high level about what diabetes is and also what you can do about it to improve and possibly reverse your type 2 diabetes. Diabetes essentially is autoimmune if you're born with it, if it's type 1, as we call it. But it's just this type 2 one that I really want to talk about. This one tends to be more lifestyle related, meaning what you choose to put in the garden of your body, and also how you choose to move your body, if at all. And specifically, type 2 diabetes and our children, what we're seeing is that over the past 20 years, more of our babies, is what I like to say, are beginning to live with childhood obesity, which is one of the leading causes of type 2 diabetes in our children. And what we know is that their clinical complications, unlike adults, they develop more rapidly and it tends to be more aggressive. And unfortunately, because our babies are developing type 2 diabetes so early in their lives, they tend to have poor treatment outcomes. Let's talk about some of the risk factors for type 2 diabetes. Poor nutrition or eating a very high fat diet, lots of processed foods, sugar, obesity, and even physical inactivity. And sometimes we see that when there's poor maternal nutrition, that our babies are born with either low birth weight and sometimes even a high birth weight. So what is this thing called diabetes? Well, I like to really summarize it and create a very mental map of what diabetes is without all of the physiology that goes into diabetes. So what is diabetes? Well, it's excess fat in the blood. And what happens is instead of insulin binding to its own receptor that says, hey, doors open, glucose, come on in. Instead, fat is binding. And so our cells can't take glucose up, and it leads to what we know as insulin resistance, which is what eventually turns into type 2 diabetes. But here's the good news. We can reverse diabetes with evidence-based data that goes back over 87 years. 87 years, people. Hear me. We already know the answer, and it does not involve medication. In fact, it involves food as medicine, and more specifically, whole plant food as medicine. So how? How can we reverse and improve outcomes of type 2 diabetes? Well, the answer is simple. Transitioning to a lifestyle of whole plant food and transitioning to a lifestyle where we prioritize physical activity. And notice I'm saying physical activity and not exercise. Exercise tends to have this negative connotation for some reason, but physical activity comes in all forms: dance, walking, gardening, etc. Now, I talked about evidence-based data going back 87 years, but let's bring it a little bit more current. There is a clinical trial going on right now in Slovakia, and they were kind enough to release some early data in 2018 that showed an 84% reversal rate of type 2 diabetes in study participants that were consuming a whole plant food diet and were participating in physical activity. That is promising. It's also confirmation. And if you are a loved one that are listening to this mini podcast have type 2 diabetes, I hope it is reassuring and that it gives you hope. So let's wrap this up and bring this on home. Let's prevent type 2 diabetes in 2 steps. Number 1, embrace a whole plant-based dietary lifestyle. Number 2, engage in physical activity at least 30 minutes a day where your heart rate is up. Let's improve insulin sensitivity in 2 steps. And let's do that by, number one, embracing a whole plant-based dietary lifestyle. And number two, engaging in physical activity at least 30 minutes every day that gets our heart rate up. And finally, let's reverse type 2 diabetes in 2 steps. Number one, embrace a whole plant-based dietary lifestyle. Number two, engage in physical activity at least 30 minutes a day by getting our heart rate up. If this appeals to you, let me know how I can support you with eating more plants and moving your body. You can follow me on Instagram at I Eat More Plants for more information. Take care. If you are taking prescription medications for type 2 diabetes or anything else, partner with your medical doctor. Let your medical doctor know that you have a goal to get off insulin by eating more whole plants and that you want to be monitored as you embrace more physical activity and a whole plant food lifestyle. Most medical doctors will welcome this partnership, but if in the rare case your medical doctor does not want to partner with you, then find a medical doctor who will. Your life is valuable, it's precious, and your health matters. I am here to inspire you to take your health back one meal at a time by eating more plants. You can do it. I know you can.